Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're back, baby. It's a Monday. We're gonna kick things off with some NBA basketball talk. But guess what? Oh boy, do we have some scheduled nonsense for you guys today at the end of the show as well. There will be spoilers. Going to be a good time. I'm Trevor Lane, back in action, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I really only have to say this. All right, I don't want to get a copyright infringement, so I'll quit it right there.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, psyched, man. Psyched to be back together, man. Good times. Glad you had a great time on your trip. You look rested and refreshed and ready to go. And you didn't miss a whole lot. There's definitely stuff
There's a few
to
things.
get into here, but we're gonna have some fun today with that. But yeah, I'm excited to be back in our routine.
Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. We've got plenty to talk about today. As I said, we've got some Marvel goodness to close out the show. But before that, we've got plenty of NBA basketball to talk here. Make sure if anybody is not a subscriber yet, you subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and go check out the basketball bulletin as well. Basketballbulletin.substack.com. Also, the YouTube channel. I'm going to have some new stuff coming out there pretty soon. All right, let's go here. I was able to catch this game, just barely got back from vacation in time to catch the U.S. open up the Olympics. Did not plan it that way. It was just fortuitous. But the big story, yes, Team USA beat Serbia, and we will talk all about that. But the big buzz, it's all about Jayson Tatum and Tyrese Haliburton not being part of the rotation for Steve Kerr. So, Keith, I've talked a little bit about this so far. What are your thoughts? I know from a Celtics perspective, you're probably not thrilled with specifically the Jayson Tatum piece of this.
It's very funny. I'm of two minds. There's part of me that says, good, don't play, collect a gold medal, rest all summer long, come home ready to go for next season. There's a big part of me that feels that way. I never want as a ardent supporter, blind homerism for Team USA. I want the best players there and I want them to win. But as that conflict with your own team where there's a little bit of, man, I kind of wish our guys would stay home and just not do this summer because I want them ready to go in October when the season starts. All that said, and I tried as much as I could to remove the Celtics part of this. I think it's stupid that Jayson Tatum didn't play. I think it's dumb that he's just not part of the rotation. To me, like this, the way Steve Kerr has handled things in the exhibitions leading up and now this first game, I get it. They won by 26 points. I fully understand. Maybe none of this will matter and they're just going to roll through everybody and win the gold and they could play, any 5 guys and be fine. And that's probably the case. But I haven't liked his rotation strategy. They're not going to admit it, but they promised Joel Embiid a starting spot if he committed.
They had
he should
to
not
have.
Be starting. Yeah,
and you see what's happened to his minutes too. Kerr's like, I can't pull him out of the starting lineup, so I'm just going to cut his minutes incrementally, and I'm going to play everybody else. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I used to call that the Irvin Johnson, not Magic Johnson, but the other Irvin Johnson that played for the
Bucks
Sonics
player.
Yeah, he played for the Bucks too, but I remember when he played for the Sonics, dipping back to when we were much younger, that year that they went to the finals against the Bulls. He would start each half, but then get pulled out very early, and Sam Perkins and Detlef Schrempf and Sean Kemp would play the forward minutes there for the most part and center minutes. So that's kind of what he started doing with Embiid, because it's very clear he's like, I got to roll with AD and Bam as my bigs and go. So I guess my biggest issue that I have with this is people keep screaming, you want Jayson Tatum to play over LeBron and KD. They were both awesome. And I have not seen a single person, even the most Celtics and Tatum homers, make that point. No one has said he should play over LeBron or KD. It's been Steve Kerr said, I wanted better spacing out there. Well, he's playing 2 big lineups off the bench where AD won't shoot threes and Bam can't make threes. So That doesn't fly as a reason. And then he said, and we got to keep size on the floor, but he's starting 3 guards. So there's a lot of things that just don't match up with this whole Kevin Durant was back. I get it. Not everybody can play. Not everybody's going to play 20 minutes a night. Like, it's just not possible. So that's the part where I don't think his lineups have been very good. I think their decision to switch everything cost them early. That, to me, seems like it was Eric Spoelstra saying, we got to get out of this. We have to stop. We need to change it up, because when they did towards the end of the first quarter, then they took off, and then the game turned into a rout. But it was those things. The shot profile for me, this was the best it's been, but it's largely been pretty broken. And if you actually watched this game, they filled it up in the fourth quarter, which boosted a lot of these stats from some of these guys. Like Devin Booker had only made 2 shots before the last couple of minutes, and then he made a couple of 3-pointers in the final. I think it was the final couple of 3-pointers and like a layup in the final couple of minutes there. Him and Anthony Edwards aren't playing any defense at all. Like, I just feel like there's times when it's Steve Kerr's kind of, he got too cute. Like, he outthought himself here, where it's like, I got to go. Haliburton, I get it too. And I wouldn't blame any Pacers fans if they're like, what the heck? But we saw this one coming, because his best skill is his on-ball facilitation and distribution. And he's not going to have the ball that much on a team with this much talent. And then what happens is he's not a good defender, and he's only a so-so, outside shooter at times, as far as being a catch and shoot guy. And because of his lack of defense, Kerr went to Derek White in the lead-ups to this. Once Derek White joined the team, and it's very clear, it's been like, all right, hey, I trust his defense, and he's been, for my money, the best perimeter defender on the team so far through the, 6 games they've played. So the Haliburton one, I kind of think I saw it coming. I'll finish with this because I'm going way too long. It was a 26-point game. There's no reason you couldn't have got everybody in. And I don't know if that turned into the old, right? We see this in the NBA where it's like the veteran bench guy. Sometimes you're up 30 and there's like 3 minutes left, and you don't put that guy's like, I don't want to go in and play garbage time. Like, I'm a 15-year vet. Like Udonis Haslem for years and years and years with Miami wouldn't play even in blowouts, because you just don't do that to a veteran guy. Maybe it's like, I'm just not going to put Tatum and Haliburton in with the game being a blowout, but you ought to be able to find a way. Every other Team USA coach has figured this out, and that was with the benefit of always having one guy that they didn't need to play, usually on the bench. Like, there's no reason Kerr can't figure it out too.
All right, so obviously there's a lot there. This is something that this is a conversation you've been having for the last couple of days. Well, I guess a day now, 24 hours. I'm in agreement, but let me throw this with you. This at you, because we always ask this, and I think there's a little bit of the all-star team situation here, in that no matter who it is, somebody is getting, quote, snubbed, right? Somebody is getting snubbed. So the question is always not who should be on the team, but who are they replacing?
Yep.
So assuming that now Kerr has said you can't do an 11-man rotation, I only want to do a 10-man rotation. Who are you pulling to put? I agree with you on Haliburton. And I think people will go, oh, Keith's a homer, Derek White over Tyrese Haliburton. No, I'm going Derek White over Tyrese Haliburton as well. You need the defense. I don't think that's even that big of an argument. Who are you replacing with Jayson Tatum?
In this game specifically, once we saw how it was going, I would have played Tatum over Booker, or I would have played Tatum over Bam. Okay. Like, Bam was doing nothing good offensively. Serbia wasn't even guarding him when he was out at the perimeter. They were just letting him be out there by himself. And again, I get it. They won by 26. It didn't matter that they didn't guard him. I fully understand that. But I would have had Tatum in over either one of those guys. And if we're going to have moments where Anthony Edwards is just not going to play defense, he had 5 different plays in this game, 3 in the first half, 2 in the second half, where he either got blown by or a guy just cut by him. Then he finally realized it. And on 2 of them, AD cleaned it up for him by deterring shots at the rim. With that, to me, if Team USA loses a game, it's maybe it'll be because they just can't get any shots to fall, but it will be because they don't play good enough defense. Like that's where it'll be. And clearly, I get it. You have times where it's like, man, do we have to? Like, we're gonna, we can steamroll these teams and we need to play, good enough defense. But there are gonna be other good teams that can play. I'll say this. I don't buy the whole Serbia is the second best team in the field stuff that people have been saying. I didn't feel that way coming in. They have 3 NBA guys. They're good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they are. I think I would have Canada, Australia, France over them. I know France has been a little uneven, but I would have those 3 teams over them. But yeah, so that's where I would have gone, right? That's where I would have gone with Tatum to get playing time. I would have played him over either of those guys and kind of gone that way. Like I just Jayson Tatum has shown he can be malleable. He can play kind of whatever position. Played the 5 for a lot of the playoff run because Porzingis was out. Like he can play big. No, I don't want to guard in Jokic one-on-one. That's for AD to do most of the time. And AD did a great job with him, at least making him uncomfortable. And I get Bam also being there helped. But yeah, I just like that's where I was a little like, all right, I'm just not buying some of the things that were said. I also, let me say this. I don't think there's any grand conspiracy. People are like, well, they're trying to piss off the Celtics by not taking Jaylen Brown and taking his teammate. And now they're not playing Jayson Tatum, but playing his teammates because they want everybody to be angry. That's like galaxy brain,
why would they care?
5D chess. Like they're, that's not it. I have felt for a while now that Steve Kerr, I don't know what was going on with him with this group, but I don't think he's made very good decisions with this team. But the talent probably is so much that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, we're having this conversation about Devin Booker. If it's not Jayson Tatum, right? We're talking about why isn't Devin Booker getting in games? Because I do think that's it too. People point to, oh, Embiid's awful. Embiid should not be playing. Embiid. You weren't pulling Embiid against Jokic, right? You needed Embiid's not been good. Don't get me wrong. Embiid's not been good, but you needed Embiid against Jokic. If you're going to play Embiid at all, it was this game because he's got the size to, again, he's not going to stop Jokic, but to at least contest with him. I'm a Lakers guy, and you saw AD on Jokic. He got moved under the basket a couple of times. Embiid's a bigger, heavier dude.
Everybody gets moved by Jokic. Yeah, exactly.
True. Everybody does. And Embiid got burned a few times too, but you need those bigs to throw at Jokic. So you weren't benching Embiid in this matchup. There are people saying Embiid needs to be benched moving forward. AD, Bam are the 2 centers. That's it. That's how you get Tatum into the rotation. I get that. I do think there would still be situations then where people are going to complain no matter what, but people will be complaining up the U.S. is too small now. You don't have enough rebounding on the floor, blah, 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 all of that. Tatum's not playing over Durant. He's not playing over LeBron. That's not going to happen. But the Devin Booker argument, I think there's a real one there. Should he be playing the 3 in place of Devin Booker? Are you too small? I also think we've seen late in games, Steve Kerr, he's done what fighters tend to do. You see it all the time in the UFC. What happens when a guy gets rocked, when a guy gets hit? He goes to whatever it is that he is best at. If that's wrestling, he instantly goes for a takedown, right? That's what you see happen. When games are tough, when games start going tough, Steve Kerr, he goes small. It's what he responds with. Why? Because that's what he knows. That's what he's best at, is small ball. And so the fact that he's starting small with Devin Booker as a 3, maybe not a surprise. I do think Jayson Tatum, certainly talented enough to be in this mix, certainly talented enough to be playing, and you can make the argument he should be playing over Booker or whoever. I don't buy the argument that he should be playing over Derek White or he should be playing over Joel Embiid, because I think those are 2 different. It's White versus Haliburton. That's the argument there, and I'm seeing a lot of that out there. Oh, he should play over Derek White. No, that's a totally different battle, different position, different skill set, different usage on the team. But ultimately, we'll see if Steve Kerr changes it up. He did say he felt bad after the game. Maybe he'll change it.
He said he felt like an idiot. Yeah, and that's that's not even a paraphrase. Like his exact quote was, "I felt like an idiot for not playing him." And then he did say this morning when they met with the media, he's like, Jayson Tatum will play against South Sudan. And then there was some reasoning on they're smaller, they're quicker, we're going to need to be able to switch. And it's like I said at the beginning, look, if the answer is go along for the ride, get a gold medal and come home rested, having had a nice vacation in France, fine. Like personally, that's great for the Celtics. And maybe he comes home completely pissed off. Like, I think there's a chance Jaylen Brown is going to come out, and not always the best thing when Jaylen Brown comes out feeling disrespected because he plays a little too shot out of a cannon and then he's all over the place in that, but we'll see. But hey, if they come out with a chip on their shoulder, fine. Like, I mean, these guys, we see it all the time. Teams coming off a title, often it's manufactured, like anger
Disrespect.
that they're making up, right? And it's like if you come out with like real chips on your shoulder for real reasons, whether they should be or not, that's all right. No one should really be complaining about it.
All right, let's go here. Team USA is going all the way. I had to pull this.
Iceland may be tough, but we're Team USA and we're going all the way. Yeah. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Team USA is going down. That's where you're going.
Oh, harsh words from Wolf the Dentist Stanton right there. Gordon Bombay is going to have to bust out the flying V and find a way to get that done. Keith, having now seen the first games of each team, do you feel like Team USA is going to win the gold? If we're to make a prediction here.
Yeah, and I felt that way coming in. Anything less than the gold medal would be a pretty massive failure, and that's even recognizing the rest of the world has caught up and closed that gap. But like we said it during the exhibitions, Team USA, when they go to their bench, that's where they win games. You go to 5 guys that would probably start for any one of these other teams. I don't know that there's put it this way, Jayson Tatum and Tyrese Haliburton probably don't come off the floor very much for any one of the other 11 teams in the Olympics if they were there. They'd even get in the first game. So, yeah, I feel really confident about it. I think Canada's going to be tough. I think Germany, could be tough. I think the challenge is for some of these teams, by the time we get there into those knockout phases, Team USA will have played 8 games together. And you even saw it in this one. The chemistry just looked better. There weren't quite as many sloppy turnovers after the first couple minutes. And I think this is probably going to be a problem until, I don't know, maybe next cycle, maybe the next one after that. I think they still have this mindset of like, well, we're here. They should just roll over for us. And like they try these ridiculous alley-oops to open games and stuff that just, it's like those should be saved for the last 5 minutes or after you're already rolling in a game. And that I think causes some of that early sloppiness. That's how, right. It was funny. I jokingly said like my timeline had me believing like Olympic basketball is played like the playground 1st to 10. And it's over because there's like Serbia got up. What is it, like 10-2?
It was 10-2.
This is over. It's over.
We've seen them do that before.
And that's it. And I think they're going to keep doing it too.
Yeah.
With that, like, so that's where I kind of am. I'm just kind of in a spot where I'm like, like I'm not. I sound like such an ugly American right now, but it's so true. Like they'll get challenged, but I don't think anybody can beat them.
Well, I don't think it's going to be a D2, the Mighty Ducks type situation where they have to change jerseys at halftime or anything like that in order to rally the team. Off the
playground in Paris because he has like he shoots from like the other free throw line or something. It's knuckle puck time.
The knuckle puck. Oh, that's a good movie. That's a good movie. I do agree. I think Team USA will get it done. 40-minute games though. A hot 3-point shooting game from just about anybody could put a scare into a team. So certainly something we'll be keeping an eye on. But next up, South Sudan. And really, I watched that one on the cruise ship, drinking heavily during the game because of the game. And frankly, they should have lost that game, Keith. So I thought Anthony Edwards fouled on that final play. And that it should have been 2 free throws to, I believe it was Wenyan Gabriel, our old friend, to win the game for South Sudan. And that didn't get called. But we'll see if the U.S. is able. I hope that's the kind of, you talk about, pissing somebody off, lighting that fire. I hope that the way the last game against South Sudan went means Team USA shows up to this next game with a little bit of that extra motivation.
Yeah, I think you see them show up too focused, right? Just not Like, again, you've already played these guys. You'd already played Serbia. So it's not just enough to just show up with the USA on your jersey and be done. Like, these teams are coming for you, and these teams can all play. So, yeah, it's I feel pretty good that they'll that they'll get through that one. And then then we see where it goes. Now I'm forgetting who the final. Oh, then Puerto Rico lost to South Sudan. They'll let's see what they do against Serbia. But that they could be playing pretty desperate there because it's the way it works. But a lot of people I don't think still fully get it. It's the top 2 teams in each group, and then the 2 best third place teams go through. That's why you're seeing teams. They're still trying to score points at the end of these games. They're not really running up the score trying to rub the other team's nose in it. They're just trying to create scoring differential.
It's because that's the tiebreaker that we're seeing. So yeah,
and that's going to come in place big time if you're one of those third place teams.
Exactly. So if you're looking right now, this is how the table looks currently. Serbia and Puerto Rico on the bottom. The reason why Puerto Rico is ahead of Serbia is because of that point differential that you see there, and then South Sudan and of course the U.S. right now on top. We'll keep an eye on it, and of course we'll be tracking this all throughout. This is great that we have NBA players playing basketball that we get to talk about here in almost August. But this is where things currently stand, and that game against South Sudan coming up. All right, let's get into some NBA news that we've got around the league. Tyus Jones, 3.3, as I recall, off the top of my head, $1 million contract.
Yeah, veteran minimum.
Yeah, minimum deal for Tyus Jones. I mean, value-wise, this might be the steal of the summer, but we've found out why. And that's because the Suns have said that Tyus Jones will start. They offered him a starting job. And so what he is doing here, because he is certainly not a minimum player, he's looking at the market and he says, you know what? I'm going to gamble on if I start this year for the Suns on a team that is projected to be pretty good, I can get a lot more money next summer than if I take a deal that's maybe a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal, whatever was out there for him from another team right now. I'd rather take the gamble that I'm going to play on a 1-year contract. I'm going to show everybody just how good I am, and I'm going to get a big contract this next summer. That is the risk right now Tyus Jones is taking for the Suns. It's a phenomenal bargain because, again, he is a much better player than a veteran minimum. Keith, I think this might be, there's a few others that we could talk about, but this might indeed be the steal of the summer in terms of bang for your buck on this Tyus Jones contract.
Yeah, right now for me, it's this one or Gary Trent Jr., right? Those are kind of, because both teams acquired a starter on the minimum when, here's the really important part, that's all they could offer was minimums too, right? That's the other important part. Like you're not really you're expecting to get depth on a minimum, and maybe a guy becomes a starter. Maybe it's one of those deals where it's like we all kind of know, like if the 76ers hadn't gone quite the same way they went and Kyle Lowry returned on a minimum and started for them, we'd be like, okay, well, we kind of get that one. But this is going out and getting 2 guys for the minimum that you couldn't have got otherwise. Suns all around, pretty nice summer considering they didn't have much to work with. You got Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, so 2 guys on the minimum now that are going to be really important players for this team that kind of played almost all year without a real point guard. And now you have 2 pretty good ones, pretty solid guys. Guys, too, who are pretty reliable at sticking a jump shot, but mostly you're going to set your offense, get you into stuff, and run things. Like, that's really good work. Then you got Mason Plumlee as the backup 5. I think he's pretty good. And they re-signed Royce O'Neal to a nice contract, re-signed Grayson Allen or extended him. That happened slightly before the offseason, but again, another future-based move that I thought was pretty good there. He's presumably the one who's going to lose his starting spot because you need a center, and it's not going to be Durant, Beal, or Booker. Although some have suggested maybe Beal, they could convince him. I kind of don't see a $50 million guy coming off the bench for a team.
Yeah.
That's just me. But they are in a spot where we'll see what that comes out to look like. So I think this team is better than they were a year ago. And I think, they have a chance now to be decent. I'm not going to go crazy about them, going into next season yet or anything like that. And I liked their draft picks too. I thought Ryan Dunn and Oso Iguodala were really good values for them, where they got both of those guys at. So all around, pretty good summer for Phoenix.
Yeah, for a Phoenix team that doesn't, again, as you said, doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility. Keith, can I ask why? I'm seeing here on Spot Track, it's projected at just over $2 million, the contract for Tyus Jones. Why is the reporting 3.3?
3.3 is his actual salary on the veteran minimum.
And that's how much hits on the books. I forgot veteran minimum.
Yep. So it defaults. That's all right. First day back.
I'm still clearing the cobwebs. Clearing the cobwebs
now. Margarita juice still flowing through the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a lot of sun. Keith, now I'm at the point coming back from this cruise where now I have to undo all the damage. Like I ate everything. I had all the drinks. I had a good time. I gained like 5 pounds. Now I got to come back and work to undo the damage, get back into the swing of things. But boy, was that needed. That was a good time.
That just means you did it right.
That's right, man.
Means you handled it the right way. But yeah, that's why. Yeah. So 2.1 million will be what hits the books for Phoenix. We know it's a veteran minimum. A couple of people said, how can you assume it's a vet minimum? Because that's all they could offer. They couldn't offer anything else because of their second apron status. So, but yeah, I mean, all around, I think the Suns did really well. And let's not forget too, kind of sitting there right smack in the middle of the page, Josh Okogie, $8.3 million, pretty tradable number if they want to go out and get somebody, that comes in and maybe not going to be a monster upgrade or anything like that. But by the time we get to the trade deadline, that's a nice thing. And I've said it on the show before, but it's worth repeating. Don't generally like thinking about players as terms of being a walking trade exception or just a contract number. But Josh Okogie wouldn't have got the minimum from anybody else. So he made $6 million more bucks. So I don't really feel bad, especially knowing he knew signing this. The idea was he could be traded and moved. So all around good stuff from Phoenix this summer.
All right, let's go to the Indiana Pacers. Who get an Andrew Nembhard extension done. I'll pull up that salary sheet there. Keith, this happened during the cruise. I did see it. I had internet on the ship, but my wife, and she was right to do this, told me I was not allowed to work or get too engrossed in NBA stuff while the cruise was happening. So, Keith, what were the terms of this deal?
3 years, $59 million is what it basically works out to being. So what will happen with Andrew Nembhard is he's way down the bottom because he's making just over $2 million this year. But this will be basically, this is still an estimate because we haven't confirmed the number yet, but we feel pretty good about this one. He'll be 18.1 million, then 19.5, almost 21 million in the final year. It really works out pretty well, I think, for Andrew Nembhard. I think this is a pretty good contract for him to come in here. A lot of people went a little crazy because like 20 million a year for Andrew Nembhard. Like why did the Pacers do this? Well, 20 million a year puts him about 40, I think it was 43rd among all guards. And then he is like 20 something among point guards. So I feel that's pretty fair value for Andrew Nembhard. He showed with Haliburton out that he can run and lead the offense as a point guard, as a scorer, and he can play alongside Haliburton. And if they got a much better player, he could slide to the bench role and be the third guard and play that way too. So I think this is great work for him and great work by the Pacers.
Yeah, the Pacers keeping this team together. They're going to plan on growing organically. Obviously didn't make a big splash here or anything like that, but they made a big step forward this last season, and they're going to look to improve upon that this next year by keeping their chemistry, keeping their team together, and then moving forward. All right, last thing we've got before we get to some scheduled nonsense here. The Lakers and Jerami Grant. This is, I mean, look, at this point, I know somehow it is still July. It feels like it's July 2025 at this point. And Rob Pelinka is still sitting there and still not done anything. What's that?
Right. It feels like it's July 43rd or something.
Right. It does. Yeah. It does. So Lakers fans are very upset with their front office for not having done anything at this point, other than draft players and bring back their own guys. I've talked for a long time on Lakers Nation about why that's the case, why it's gone this way, and that sort of thing. But now there's some things popping up about, well, maybe they had some discussions about the Blazers about Jerami Grant, and there was maybe a deal that involved 2 firsts and that sort of situation. And that the Lakers ultimately balked at the idea of doing that at some point in those negotiations. And then Zach Lowe had a little comment about, it's hard to tell how much he was just kidding, but that we should just start printing Jerami Grant Lakers jerseys. Keith, do you see a deal to be struck here? Because I think there are some challenges. So I want to get your perspective on this. Is there a deal to be had here? And is Jerami Grant worth 2 first-round picks?
Yeah, so that's the tricky part, right? That's the part that truly matters in this discussion. I think, is there a deal to be made? Maybe, but not without the 2 first-round picks, because the guys the Lakers would be sending to Portland don't necessarily have value to Portland. That's where it gets tough.
That's the exact problem that I was just talking about on Lakers Nation. Yep.
Because he's at roughly 30 million, right? Because especially if you're considering with the Lakers with the apron issues, they probably want to send out a little bit more than they take back. So I'm just going to call Jerami Grant 30 million, right? So the Lakers want to get to sending Portland $30 million. So that means one out of Hachimura or D'Angelo Russell has to go, right? That seems pretty easy. And I would think if you're acquiring Jerami Grant, probably want to move on from Hachimura, because what do you need him for? So then what that turns into, if you're the Lakers, is where are we going to go, to make up the rest of it? Is it going to be Gabe Vincent? Is it going to be Austin Reeves? Is it going to be Jared Vanderbilt? Here's the issue with Reeves, I think would be fine because you would make that work. But if it's Vanderbilt or Vincent, it's the extra year's worth of money. 1 more year with Vincent, 1 more year with or multiple more years with Vanderbilt. That starts to become the issue, right? So then you run into how do we make this? Oh, you have the trade machine up. But just notice I just look back here. So yeah, so that becomes the challenge, right? For the Lakers is, who are we going to send out, in this, and where do we go? So trade that should work. What you just put together there,
I did.
But your challenge is, if I'm Portland, if I'm taking on Hachimura and Vincent for this season plus next season, I want both first. Now we circle back around to your last question is Jerami Grant worth 2 firsts? That's tough, right? Because you're talking about 2 first-round picks that are probably going to be a little bit further out. I mean, the way he's playing in the Olympics, I should probably just stop saying post LeBron, because who the hell knows anymore? It's so good in the Olympics. I tweeted it yesterday during the game. Like, why would he ever retire? Like, just
I saw that.
50, right? Like, why not? I guess, right? But that's my challenge is, do I want to give up that? Then I see you dropped them in there, the 29 and the 31 first. I would need protection on at least one of those. Yep. Just in case everything goes completely sideways. That's where it gets hard. If Jerami Grant was on like another team that needed to rebalance, or a team that wasn't just looking to go with kids, maybe then you could be like, well, send them D'Angelo Russell and they could play him. They don't need a point guard, right? And that's where it all kind of gets really, really messy.
Right. And that's the challenge that I keep running into when I'm looking at this situation. It's that, the Lakers should have interest in Jerami Grant. First of all, his contract is not good. It's not a good contract. We knew it the second he signed it last summer. It was not going to be a good contract. That's when everybody went, oh, damn, Damian Lillard just got traded. Can they go back and undo the Jerami Grant contract? Can they get out of this thing? Because we knew the second he signed it was going to be a bad contract. So that's a challenge. Good player, though. Good player.
I don't think his contract's as bad as some have made it out to be.
It's not like the worst in the league.
Exactly. Some people see it and they think like, oh man, Jerami Grant is making a max deal. He's not. He's way under the max. Way under the max for his years of service even. Like his years of service, he's like 20 million plus under the max each season. So yeah, it's for me, it's more the length than it is the dollars. Like I don't love the 36 million in 2027 when he'll be 33 years old. That's the one where I'm a little like, that's where it gets messy.
And from the Lakers side of things, they're going to look at this and say, well, you can't look at Rui Hachimura with only 2 years on his deal and say, oh, we have to absorb Rui Hachimura. Like, oh, this is this negative contract, this anchor. If we're not going to also recognize that Jerami Grant's not a great deal either, and his actually goes 4 years. But to the Blazers, they don't want Rui Hachimura necessarily. They don't want D'Angelo Russell. They don't want to win games. They don't want to mess anything up in the Cooper flag race or anything like that. What they want to do is just add as many young players as they can get. But from the Lakers side of things, D'Angelo Russell and Rui Hachimura are starters. So then the math becomes we're giving up a starter plus 2 firsts to get Jerami Grant. And so that's where I think there's a disconnect between how the two sides are going to value this. And so that's where I'm curious to see if there is a deal to be struck, because they're going to value things very differently. And maybe that's where you need a third team to come in that would value Rui Hachimura or D'Angelo Russell, and then you can try to find something that works there. But just interesting that this is something that continues to pop up. And this is, Keith, I think this is one of those situations, whether it's the Lakers or somewhere else, that we probably see a little bit more traction with post August 6th when we're living in a post Lowry Markkanen decision world.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's true too. I think this is probably one, let's revisit it in middle of December, in January. Let's see what it looks like then when we have a little bit better of an idea. Because right now, today, here would be my bigger question with this. I really like Jerami Grant.
Yeah.
Is Jerami Grant a big enough upgrade over Rui Hachimura that I'm giving up the other stuff?
Yep.
That's where I would have to really, I don't know, right? I just don't know that he is. Like that's probably my biggest worry on this trade is, I think in a vacuum, yes, I would rather have Jerami Grant, even on their respective contracts.
I agree.
But for the Lakers specifically, you're talking about, because in this world, D'Angelo Russell's still there. He's coming in as really 5th option, right? Most nights, because you're going to have, obviously, LeBron and AD are 1A. Then you have the 2 guards, Reeves and Russell. Then you have Jerami Grant would be the 5th option in that starting group. That's the same as what Hachimura is. Whether he starts, comes off the bench. I mean, there's lots of ways they could play that out. But at that point, I'm like, did I just give up my 2 best trade assets? Because again, whenever we do this, we don't act stupid, because LeBron's not a trade asset because they're not going to trade him. Right. Sure. So like, and now they can't, right? So like, that's like, I mean, they could, but you know what I mean? So it like comes into, we try to be realistic about it. The Lakers' 2 best trade assets are those 2 future first round picks. And at that point I would be like, man, I need a really big upgrade. This is where it becomes, you can't just do something to do something, right?
Yep.
Because then it could get really sideways on you really, really quickly with that. So that's the tough thing. And I know because I had it in the questions on the shows I did when you weren't here, where people were like, what about D'Angelo Russell? Like, why does nobody want him? Right now, nobody really needs a point guard. Like that's
part of it. Yep.
The issue. Very few teams need a point guard. And honestly, let's say we just traded D'Angelo Russell away. Let's just say you could do D'Angelo Russell for Jerami Grant straight up. Who plays point guard for the Lakers then? I assume probably Austin Reeves and Gabe Vincent. But now you're like, you then like, did you plug one hole and create another? Right? It's the little Dutch boy, I think isn't that the allegory there, where he's like plugging holes in the dam, and it's like he plugs one and then water comes out the other side, and he has to keep doing it. Like it's like, did you create another problem by fixing one? So that's where that balance comes out. I mean, in an ideal world, you probably, I would rather trade D'Angelo Russell for a better guard. I would think, and it's funny because I saw people like, why didn't Tyus Jones want to come to the Lakers? Well, one, could have got the same minimum from the Lakers, but it would have taken him over the apron, which then would have brought in a whole nother mess of restrictions on if they wanted to make a trade later. It would have just made things harder. But the second thing is, there is not a roster spot right now. We're in Phoenix. Technically, there isn't there either, but it sounds like they're going to waive EJ Liddell. So there will be a roster spot. And guys are looking at it and they're just like, man, I don't know. Like, what's my role going to be? You know, and
there's also not
that's
a
where it gets
starting
tough.
job, whereas Phoenix said, here, you're going to start. So
Exactly.
that's,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the other part of it too. So yeah, just sometimes when I think these doing it the way we did it here, I think can be really helpful because we're not saying the Lakers don't have enough to get Jerami Grant. It's just when you start to break it down, you get a sense of, all right, well, this is why this is hard.
yes.
Right. Because it's not just as easy as, make this deal and go. Like sometimes it is better to wait and see, you know, where it all kind of comes and falls out.
All right, let's get to some scheduled nonsense. As soon as this stuff happened, some of the news we're going to talk about here, I couldn't wait to do this show and talk about it. Keith, there was a point when the Dr. Doom stuff came out. I'm sitting on an airplane waiting for I'm getting on my connecting flight. We have pulled back right from the gate, but we're waiting. We had to stop because there was another plane that was in our way. So we pulled back, and I am frantically trying to get as much internet as I can out of my phone, right, while I can. And there was a period there after we took off for about 30 minutes where I was pinging around. I was so excited about all the Dr. Doom stuff. I was so excited that I was sitting there processing in my head, could Keith and I legitimately do a Marvel show? Like with that, could we do maybe once a week a whole show of Marvel? And what would happen? What would that be like? And of course, I ultimately landed at we're both far too busy to actually do that and commit to that. But it would be so much fun. I say all of that to set up this massive spoiler alerts. If you don't want to be spoiled on any of the Marvel stuff, on Wolverine and Deadpool or anything, get out now. Now is the time.
And we are not coming
off.
back to any NBA stuff. We promise. Like, you're not going to miss any NBA coverage. Yeah, drop out now if you want. We're just going to talk about our other favorite hobby.
Exactly. So let's get into some scheduled nonsense. Once again, last chance. Spoiler alerts. I need an alarm or something like that. If you don't want to hear about what happens in Wolverine and Deadpool, because that's what we're going to talk about right now, well, you need to exit this program. All right. Keith, I had a layover in Fort Lauderdale. And, well, not layover. We got back from our cruise, and we're in Fort Lauderdale, and we had a whole day. Our flight was not leaving till that evening. And my daughter's still with grandparents. She's not old enough to see Wolverine and Deadpool. I thought, you know what? This is our chance. We're going to go see this movie, and I'm not going to have to get a sitter because the kiddo is still with grandparents. So we took that opportunity, and we went and saw Wolverine and Deadpool the day it came out. I know you've seen it. I've got so many thoughts. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I'm good to start anywhere you want. I will just say this. I am in the bag for all things Marvel generally. There's yet to be a Marvel project other than maybe Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion, I was just kind of meh about. I like all the rest of it. There's some of it I like way more, but I have yet to come out of a movie or wrap a show other than, like I said, Secret Invasion, being like, it was just fine. Like I enjoy all of it because I go back to we didn't have a lot of like the Batman movies with like Michael Keaton starting that off. That was like our superhero movie when we were kids because Superman and those were way before my time. Like, so, I mean, I saw them obviously, but like, that was the first, like, oh, cool, a superhero movie. And then it was like, then the next big one that I remember, like franchise wise, was the X-Men, like came out and it was like, okay, this is pretty cool too. But then it was like when the Marvel stuff started and they did the first few movies and it was like, wait, these are all kind of tied into each other. I was in on the shared universe part of it and I've been in the whole way. So I'll start with that because people are like, man, you like every Marvel movie. Yeah, that's true. I do.
True.
Like, I'm not like, I can't argue with that. I wouldn't say, I had a blast. And I told the couple friends who were a little on the fence because they were a little like, I haven't liked the last couple. I was like, this one's just fun. Like, it just was fun. It was just a fun movie in the theater, and I had a blast with it.
So I do want to start with the good because there is some stuff that I was a little disappointed with in Wolverine and Deadpool. Not a lot, but I think your general point is is on the money. This is fun. This was a fun movie. It was a blast to sit there and watch. The cameos were fantastic. There were great cameos all the way throughout. And yes, I'm using a pun there with fantastic. There was some cool stuff in this movie from start to finish that I really loved. In particular, what I thought was cool was that it ended up, and I was not expecting this going in, it ended up being like the movie was a 2-hour and 15-minute love letter to those Fox movies that you and I really grew up on, right? The X-Men movies and all that kinds of, before the whole Marvel Universe stuff really started. And we got to see so much from those. And some of those were good and some of those were bad, but they didn't really differentiate between them. They threw in, like, Elektra is in there, right? You got Jennifer Garner as Elektra. Not good, right? But still kind of cool. You get that send-off there. Blade. Wesley Snipes as Blade being in there. Oh my gosh, I loved those movies. Those were great, except for maybe the third one, but those were a lot of fun too. So when I watched through the movie and I tried to avoid as many spoilers as I could, seeing all of the cameos and everything, and all of those throwbacks to the Fox properties or that prior generation of superhero movies, that was so much fun for me.
Yeah, that part was great too. I even loved when they had Channing Tatum as Gambit, and that goes all the way back to, if people don't know, they were going to make a Gambit origin story. Channing Tatum was going to play him. Channing Tatum was really like, I need to be the one to play this character because I'm from New Orleans. Like, I have people in my family. He speaks with a Cajun accent. He's like, I have people in my family who speak with Cajun accents. He's like, I need to play this character. And then when Disney bought Fox, they canceled a ton of stuff, mostly because it's like, we want to bring them all into our universe. That was one of the ones that got canceled, but now he had a chance, and we saw him and he was there, and it was great. I mean, the whole Chris Evans showing up again, and they made you think he was Captain America.
Did you even put red on his arms to make it look blue and red and everything? That was so cool.
So and I even nudged my daughter. I was like, oh, it's Cap. And then, because I went in completely spoiler free, I knew nothing about it. And then he comes back, and it was Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four uniform. It's like, oh, and my theater went crazy with a mixture of laughter and cheering, and anytime somebody showed up, it was just people were cheering. And what I loved too was it was a love letter to those Fox movies, as well as Ryan Reynolds and crew saying, we are going to use 2 hours to just poke fun at the MCU and make fun of it and have a good time with doing it and all that stuff. And so I just I had a great time with it. Did it advance the story for the MCU in a huge way? Probably not. Probably not at all. Maybe even set it back a little bit. I do wonder if they took a little bit of the idea of all right, we're kind of, because he mentioned it no less than 3 times. Deadpool did these timelines are really kind of stupid, or what? Basically how he was
the
said
multiverse
those things.
Stuff sucks.
Yeah, I think they're doing what they can to get out of the multiverse stuff and get back to. It sounds so dumb putting it this way, but a little more realism. We're gonna pick one timeline and run with it. But yeah, man, it was great. I had a great time with it. I thought the whole thing was just an absolute blast. Ton of laughs. It was very, very funny. You were absolutely right to not take your daughter. There were moments where I had our 14-year-old and I was a little but it was fine. She gets it. So we had a great time with it.
I do think the multiverse stuff, the problem with it, I like that they poked fun at the multiverse stuff and kind of recognized that it's been a miss. I liked that they did that, but then it wound up being a multiverse story anyway. And that's, I think the problem with the multiverse stuff is it removes the stakes, right? So Thanos is gonna, Thanos snap half the universe out of existence. And then what makes that such a huge storyline is, oh my gosh, all of these people are gone, and how are they going to respond to this? And this is, real tragedy and all these things happening. But you get into the multiverse stuff, and oh damn, Doctor Strange died. Oh, okay, but there's 5 million more of him, right? So you could kill off characters willy-nilly, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because there's no stakes anymore, right? One character, there's 5 other versions of him right here. All we got to do is open up this doorway. We're going to go through to another world, and we still have this character. So I think it removes, to a degree, some of the stakes. And I know you say, oh, it's bigger picture because you're talking about millions of timelines and all of these lives and all this kind of stuff. Well, sometimes when you go that far, to the human brain, to our human emotions, like it gets to a point where we can't comprehend that number's that big. Right. We can't. It doesn't. All the lives on planet Earth versus all of these other universes and things like that. It's hard for that to have more emotional weight because it just goes beyond what our brains can comprehend. So I think the poking fun of the multiverse stuff was great. I think moving away from that is ideal, but that was, and I loved, before I wrap this up, but the Henry Cavill Wolverine, that was awesome.
Cavalrine.
The Cavalry
called him. Yeah,
that was awesome because there were some comments about him maybe becoming Wolverine at some point, but and as well as the kind of nod to, hey, like Hugh Jackman is probably really done now with Wolverine. I know he was already done once, and now he's come back for this one, but now it's probably really that's going to be it for him as the character. But that was my one. Go ahead.
Sorry, I do like with the cameo. Just one thought on the cameos too. We're now in a point where multiple people say, no, I'm not in it. I'm not in it. Like Jennifer Garner openly said, I'm not in it. People keep asking me, but I'm not in it. And then she was in it. And it's like, she was there. And like all these people ask. And then, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Patrick Stewart was asked, are you back as, Professor X? And he goes, no, we had a conversation. And then he was not in it. So now it's kind of like, I don't know what one we can trust. Like, unless, it's almost like, unless you see a set photo, like who knows, if you could trust if somebody's in it or not. And even then, like, there was a part with like, people were like, well, Chris Hemsworth's in it. And I was like, holy crap, Chris Hemsworth's in it. But it was repurposed footage from one of the Thor movies. Yeah. And they did it with like Deadpool was dying. And, which is just funny. I mean, it was just, I thought it was really well done. You were going on to one of the criticisms.
Oh, just that it didn't. We thought going in, my sense, and I think the general sense for most people going in was not this is going to be the end of all of the Fox movies and kind of closing the door on all of that and this big send off for all these movies. We thought this is going to be, Marvel Jesus, right? Deadpool is entering the MCU, and this is exiting the multiverse stuff, and this is going to advance the whole thing. This is going to be the start of the next phase, whatever phase 11 at this point, probably, right? And I think it's really where phase 6 or something. But
6, I think this is 6.
So I thought this was going to be something was going to be set up here that was going to start us on a new path, and it didn't do that. That's not what we saw here. We didn't see Deadpool jump over to Earth 616, even though he did temporarily to interview to become an Avenger. And that was, interesting and all of that. But we didn't see Deadpool enter the main Marvel universe. We didn't see that happen. And so maybe that bit was a little bit disappointing. I thought, okay, this is gonna get me excited for everything else into the future. Instead, it got me more looking back at this. It was a fond remembrance of some of the movies that were to come. This was an enjoyable experience. I'm going to watch this movie again, but by no means am I going to look back and say this was the building block that set up everything else.
Yeah, completely agree with you. So on that part of it, I think it's okay that they left it. Obviously, I think now it's going to be Captain America. What is it? Brave New World, I think
Brave
is the
New World
title of it. It is that's, I think, going to be what really kind of launches the MCU forward, which the previews for that, the trailers look really good. Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I think it looks, again, a little more grounded, right? It always feels dumb when you have like characters like the Hulk and guys flying around and literal gods.
Right.
but it does feel a little more like, okay,
It's Winter Soldier-ish.
Yeah, exactly. That's what those trailers remind me of. It seems like there's a little more like espionage to it and stuff like that. So I'm excited about that part of it. That should be really fun. The other part that you touched on, and this could probably flow into our other Marvel related topic, is a lot of people have come out saying there's just no stakes anymore because you just go grab somebody from another universe if you want them, and that's how you do it. And I think the challenge is, yes, but that's exactly how comics work. No one ever dies in comics, right? Like they may die. You may even bury them, and then later it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't actually them, or they were still alive, or whatever the thought process is. And I get it. And here's my other thing: like, there's stakes in real life. I don't necessarily need there to be stakes in my movies.
True.
Right? Like, I can still enjoy a movie, and I get it. Like, none of this took anything away from Wolverine dying at the end of Logan. And spoiler for like a 7-year-old movie if you haven't seen it.
And then the beginning of Deadpool, he digs up the corpse.
Yeah.
Oh,
then he's like, I'm gonna kill you using his bones or whatever. Adamantium skeleton. So good. None of that took that away. And then if we go into the other topic we're going to talk about, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. He was announced. Looks like he's going to be a Doctor Doom. And I saw a complete like 50-50 mixture of this is awesome combined with this is ridiculous. Like, I hate this. Now, nothing says, because they have not confirmed anything, that he is playing Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom, which is, as far as I've read and understood, is kind of a comics-based storyline.
Yes.
Like, there is something about that. A couple different times, Iron Man and Doctor Doom, it sounds like, have gotten kind of mixed together. Maybe he's just playing Doctor Doom, right? Like, maybe it's just different character. Like that's now where several characters into have been different characters that have been now introduced into the MCU. Yeah, actors. Yeah, exactly. But if it is, like, there's comics history for this, why this could be a thing. And if we're going to continue with this multiverse, maybe in that multiverse, it was Tony Stark became Doctor Doom. And that's, the way it went together. And I get it, because I think people are a little like, man, like, his ending, Tony Stark's ending in our main timeline was so perfect. But to me, again, it doesn't really take away from that. Like, that was that Tony Stark. Like I don't know. I'm just not that like, I don't know. I just don't get that bent out of shape over it.
I think, and you talk about like having real stakes and things not having to be real life. I prefer that things aren't. This is why I like superhero movies so much. I prefer that things are not real world stakes, and all of that. Like, I don't enjoy that stuff as much, but it still needs to mean something. And I think that's, ultimately where I land with all that kind of stuff, is whatever's happening needs to mean something when we're looking at, and that's where the multiverse stuff. Well, there's 50 million others out there. And so that's where my initial question was. And by the way, when that first happened, and again, I'm sitting on the tarmac, we're waiting to leave, and my phone's going crazy, and everybody's Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. And all I'm thinking about is I got to talk to Keith about this. I was excited. My initial reaction was not, oh, this is dumb. My initial reaction was, this is awesome. This is going to be amazing. This is fantastic. There were other, like Cillian Murphy, I thought would have been great as Dr. Doom. But the biggest thing, right? Because Dr. Doom is like almost kind of flirting with that anti-hero territory. But this is one of the biggest characters in comics, period. This is a guy that they've tried in multiple movies prior to this, and they haven't gotten it right. You have to do everything you can to get it right. That's the bottom. Whoever it is, whether it's somebody who's played a different character or not, you have to get this right. He's way too important to everything that you're going to do to mess around and get it wrong. Everything is going to hinge upon this. And so I totally understand why Marvel would go with the known commodity, go with the guy that you built the whole thing around to start, right? Iron Man really kicked off all of this stuff. go with that guy because he's the central figure to all of this, right? To everything that they've built. It's all been built in part, other actors as well, but Robert Downey Jr. has been the guy, right? So I understand building it around him here. Now, my initial reaction was first, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then it was, well, wait, is he Victor Von Doom as he was introduced as Victor Von Doom? Or is he a Tony Stark variant? And then we're still doing the multiverse thing. And here's the thing. I don't think it particularly matters that much. I'm excited for it either way. It's just my big question coming into this. Is this Tony Stark is becoming Doctor Doom? This is a variant of Tony Stark that becomes Doctor Doom, which has happened in the comics. Or is he a completely different character? And people will say, well, Josh Brolin, he was Thanos in the MCU and Fox in the Deadpool. That's where he was Cable. You know, you've got actors who have done that. They've played a character for Fox. They played a character. Yeah, but they're all superhero movies, right? To us, we don't necessarily differentiate between, we do, right? But between the Fox property, we see a character as what they are. So the fact that we've seen somebody be one character in a superhero movie and then go be someone else in a superhero movie. Hell, Ryan Reynolds, as much as he might want us all to forget it, was the Green Lantern.
Yes.
And now he's Deadpool, right?
Yep.
There's a history of this being okay. And now, has it been within the same universe? I understand that concern, but we've seen it happen before. I think either way, it can work, whether he's a Stark variant or whether he's a completely new character. And we just have to accept that the guy who looks so similar to the Tony Stark is now playing a different character. But part of that is, I think that's the caliber of actor that he is. He can make us believe he's a completely different person. And that's all that matters.
Here's my other thing that I'll say too. We only know he's Doctor Doom because he came out and took the mask off.
Yeah.
If they just made the movie and he never took the mask off, obviously someone would have figured it out. And he probably wasn't going to do a movie that big without being credited. But like, if he just keeps the mask on the entire time, he could just be Doctor Doom. And we never need to know that it even is
True.
Robert Downey Jr., right? Like, we just need to say, all right, cool. He's, Victor Von Doom, and that's where it is with that. A couple other things that I thought were fun, just because they're all right. It all is one universe. It ties together. They announced the Fantastic Four. I don't know if you even caught this, but they announced that it's Fantastic Four First Steps. And if you look at the marketing for it, when you look at the picture, it looks like baby blocks. And it's all in like baby blue. Like, are we going to meet them as like little babies? Like, is that going to be how this starts? Like, we're going to meet like the baby Fantastic Four? Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, is that going to be a thing that happens with this?
The actors are older, but I thought
the actors are older, but like, does it start out with them like as like babies? Like, and is that like how we see it? Because and maybe they're just doing it to throw us off. But if you look at the way they've done like the Fantastic Four word mark and stuff, they look to me like they're baby, like building blocks that babies play with.
So I see this.
So you see the Marvel part, but there's another one where it says like it actually spells out the word, and they look like little baby blocks too.
That's interesting.
So yeah, and First Steps, like, is that what we're kind of getting at here? Like, could be. They also announced the Avengers movie. Clearly, right? They were changing the. It was going to be called the Kang Dynasty. Now it's Doomsday and Secret Wars. Secret Wars is where like everybody fights everybody. So that's where we're obviously heading with this. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're obviously heading to. We're going to have full X-Men and mutants and everything else. We know that's coming anyway, because they've already been introduced in other properties now. But
I love that there's only a year between them too.
Yeah, exactly. So
if
it's gonna be great, man. And it's been something I've been wondering about for a while. On so the last two movies we're getting from this phase next February, we got to wait almost over half a year for another movie. But that's Captain America. Then that May, Thunderbolts. And when they redid the Thunderbolts tag, it's Thunderbolts asterisk. And the asterisk is part of the title now. So what does that mean? Because they didn't do that for no reason. So that means something. So yeah, I'm beyond excited for all this. Like it's going to be great. Like I said, I'm in the bag for all of it. I love how it all connects. I love all the theorizing for like, how does this work? How is this going to come together? All that stuff. I can't wait.
Are they Thunderbolts because they're actually going to be called Avengers because this is the Dark Avengers?
Yeah. I don't know.
Is that what that'll be interesting to see? I do think, going back to the Fantastic Four thing, my understanding is that it's going to be set in, I believe it's the 60s. So if that's the case, and I look at the signage for this, it looks like that. I mean, it reminds me of when I look at old Disneyland stuff, right? Like old Disney signage and everything. It's that era. So that makes sense to me. Obviously Dr. Doom probably will be part of it. I think it's going to set up the whole Secret Wars thing. Do we see like God Emperor Doom? Do we see, is it the initial Secret Wars run? Is it the Beyonder? Is it all that kind of stuff? I think that's going to be really exciting. But all of this, Keith, because I've been like, I'm still all in on the Marvel stuff and everything, but like, like you, I watched the Marvels and I was like, that's all right. There were some things that could have been better. Some of the multiverse stuff, I wasn't a huge fan. I would still watch it and still be excited, but not like that first run. Not like, oh my God, we're going to see Iron Man and the Hulk and Captain America and Thor, and they're all going to be together. And this is amazing. It wasn't like that. This new batch of stuff, the excitement for Wolverine and Deadpool. And again, Wolverine and Deadpool didn't move everything forward, but that kind of reignited that excitement to me. And now I'm like, oh my God, Fantastic Four is going to be awesome. And we're going to get to see Secret Wars. No way. I mean, I read that comic so many times. The thick book of all of them put together. I read that so many times. I can't wait to see where all this is going.
A lot of stuff happens in there, right? Because that's
so much.
Right. You know this better than I do, but isn't Tony Stark in the comics run? He's like the Secretary of Defense, right? Or something like that. Like he's like actually holds like a government position, if I remember right.
Well, I'm talking about the first Secret Wars that I'm wondering how much of that gets incorporated into it, which was this great series. And so I that's the one that I've read a ton of. I read that a million times.
Here's what else excites me too. The Russos are coming back.
Yes.
With at least McFeely coming back to write the next two Avengers movies. So already I'm like, well, those will be that's a huge win. Like those are going to be awesome. Like that's the team right there. Like I'm good with that. Like that is, going to be great. I'm also glad it's not 5, 6, 7 years out. Cause I do worry when you do stuff that is more than a few years out, I do start to worry, like, what if, if I really want to be morbid, what if one of them dies? Like Black Panther, right? We lost Chadwick Boseman, and I thought the next Black Panther movie was pretty good, but like clearly he was set up to be a huge, massive part of what they wanted to do with this, and unfortunately we lost him. So like that becomes a thing, and then far less serious from a life and death. But then you have other things like Jonathan Majors and the legal issues. Extremely serious, don't get me wrong. But like that's another way you lose somebody out of these projects and the like. So I do worry about that. But man, I can't wait. Like I love this stuff. It's fun to have them to look forward to. I even think the next couple of TV shows are good. And I think Bob Iger made the right decision to say, slow down. Like, we can't be doing 6 movies a year and 4 TV shows a year. Like, just slow down. Let's, because part of it is you got to make people want it again, right? Like, if it's like, well, it'll be another one, there's another one. And for a little bit there, I get that people were like, it started to feel like work. It felt like I have to see everything. I have to go watch everything. Like, I get it, where people are coming from. So, man, it's going to be great. I'm excited for all of it.
Yeah, rather than get excited about, I've been waiting for 8 months or whatever to see this next thing. It's like, oh my God, I didn't see this thing yet that just came out 2 months ago. And now the thing that's coming out now, I'm going to be behind on and all that. It got to be a little bit too much. But I'm excited for what this is about to kick off. And again, I couldn't wait to get back here and talk about all this. So this was maybe our longest scheduled nonsense ever.
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt it was.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of big stuff.
A lot of
Like
stuff.
this, because I think the last few Comic-Cons, they haven't dropped like a bunch like this. They were like, all right, here we go. Here's some stuff. Like I guess last year they kind of did, but then it all got kind of ruined pretty quickly. Like this one is like, here it is. Here's how we're regrouping and changing it up. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yep. And they're starting to give fans certainly what they want to see. Again, kicked off by Wolverine and Deadpool. All the cameos you want to see. Wolverine and his mask, all that kind of stuff.
Oh man, when he pulled the mask on, it was so fun.
So cool.
And then so fun, gave you what you wanted, and then just the perfect joke from Deadpool, just right followed into it. Like, I'm not going to repeat it here because we keep the show family friendly, but like the joke he made about the little wing parts on it.
Oh yeah.
Like just cracked me up. Like, because I have said it multiple times at my heart. I've never matured past the age of about 14 or 15. I have all the same hobbies I had then. I love all the same things I loved then, including ridiculously crude jokes that I still think are great and funny.
Oh man, Keith, this became one of those all-time marathon episodes that we're going to look back on and be like, remember that time we spent a whole extra show just talking Marvel? But we've said we were going to do this in August. We were going to do like just a Marvel only show. It's close enough to where it's almost August here. But all right, everybody, we're going to wrap things up there. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. And go check out the Basketball Bulletin, basketballbulletin.substack.com. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.